and you gotta work with these employees and how you communicate with them. A lot of our leaders or managers don't know how to have these hard conversations with the employees.
I didn't think I would ever do a fucking podcast. I didn't ever imagine doing that. It made me realize that my purpose is to help others reach the goals and reach their full capacity. And if I can impact somebody's life, that is bigger than money. That is bigger than anything else.
Welcome to Livestream. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Plains, where we teach you how to stream your life. How you doing today, Jeremy? Happy Friday. What's going on?
Happy Friday, happy Friday.
It's going great, right?
Yeah, this week flew.
It flew by. It was a great week. There's a lot of learning lessons that I've learned this week, personally and professionally. So I'm very excited to share with our listeners. And the best part about this podcast is that it's
Free.
That's right. It's free. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. We have a great topic today. We'll be talking about how to lead in a toxic culture. What do you think about that, Jeremy? You've been around the park a couple times.
What are you saying?
I mean, you're just, past 25. You've been doing a lot of amazing things.
Oh, nice spin on that. Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to do, and I'm not even sure you can do it. I think you can do it in some capacity, some percentage, but I'm not sure you can do it fully. What do you think?
I got the solution for you.
All right, let me hear it.
I got the solution for you. And that was part of my personal development journey this week. Basically, when you change yourself, right, and you work on yourself and you start with a positive note your day and you bring that positivity into your work environment, that is rule number one. You got to start with positivity in your work environment, and then others will follow you.
Okay.
So one thing, I did it just as a test this week at the office. I started with positivity. I congratulated everyone after a good win if they took care of a patient in a special way, and you can see the energy dramatically change without the office. Didn't you realize this week was a lot better than the previous weeks that we've been having? The energy yesterday in Vero was great.
Yeah, the energy was good in Vero for sure. Absolutely. But how do you, if the culture is toxic on the regular, if it's consistently toxic, how do you overcome that?
Well, the first thing, you got to work personally on yourself. So you need to teach your team a reflection of what you want from them. That's number one. Number two is when you start seeing these habits start taking place. I was always afraid of having those hard conversations. You got to start having those hard conversations immediately. You got to start building a form of affinity with the employees so they can understand where you're coming from and make them feel special in a way so they understand that they're valued as an employee. That's rule number one. Then you got to coach them. You got to develop them. And you cannot be, with a heavy hammer if you haven't taken your time developing them, because what is the goal of it? At the end of the day, if you don't teach them properly, how can you expect them to do? And I think another big thing is that you got to spend a lot of time with them and helping them develop. A lot of us just say we expect them to know what we want, but we haven't had those hard conversations with them.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of people about they get this mindset of if the employee doesn't nail it in the beginning, they're ready to get rid of them within 30 days.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Why? Why, guys? Why? No bueno.
Because they just believe that there's a big amount of humans out there that are willing to do the job. And there isn't. I mean, if you invest, go ahead.
Well, I think that it's a situation where a lot of people feel like they use that mentality of throw enough on the wall and something will stick.
Yeah, no, that's not right.
Do that with
you
human
can't
capital.
do that. You can't do that. You gotta do an evaluation of yourself. I always talk about self-evaluation. What have I been doing wrong that has led this culture to get this way? And for me, in my organization, it was that I haven't been having those hard one-on-one conversations with the employees. And I've been allowing them to get away with bad behavior. And guess what happens? That develops bad patterns and bad overall leadership skills from my end and from their end.
Yeah, and it definitely goes down the ladder, right? It rolls down the hill, it rolls down the tree, it does all that stuff to where, even the people that are the reliable ones and are cleaning rooms, lack of a better description, it impacts them as well.
They go. And they always say that an A employee can very easily turn into a B or C employee if they're around the C employee enough, you know?
Yeah.
So even the good ones can sometimes go bad if you're not holding them with high expectations and high accountability. And how you're going to do that is by having hard conversations, by having KPIs, by having surveys, by having feedback from, you know, the reviews that we get from our patients, from our colleagues, from our employees within the organization.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough communication. I don't think any organization.
Communication is a huge problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's not an organization in the world who's great at it. I'm sorry. People claim to be great at it, but something always gets missed.
That is right. That is right. Yeah, communication is very, very important. And I think you got to definitely continue to have, you know, those morning huddles that I always think are, you know, are amazing. That's a great way to start your day. And it can't just be focused on numbers and the problems. You got to also talk about the wins of the previous day and what you chase to win for that exact day that you're in.
How do you get team members to follow you with respect to self-development? Like, how do you do that? How do you, you know, you're really focused on self-development. Let's get these guys, let's build this toxic culture. Let's get rid of this toxic culture. Let's build a different one, but we need them to focus on their self-development as well. Is that more of a self-discipline thing, or is that something that, you know, we can manage and lead?
That it's a combination of the two. You can always, you know, do what I always say, lead by example and see if they follow you. But the only way that they're going to be able to realize it is like if they make a mistake or they go through a challenge or a hurdle and you sit down with them and you have that conversation and you be like, what can I do to support you so this doesn't happen again? So remember what I said this week. There's 3 different types of employees, right? You got the willing, where those are the ones that are trying and they can make mistakes, but they're willing to be there. They're there on time. They have good attitude. Then we got the angry and the ones that are very negative. And then you got the lazy. Out of all those 3, you're only going to keep one type of employee, and that is the willing.
Sure.
The lazy and the ones that are angry and are upset to be there and are not there focused on the purpose, they need to leave.
Yeah, those guys are going to turn over all the time.
They're uncoachable.
Yeah.
And sometimes we hold on to employees because we have relationships with them and we feel bad, you know, because at the end of the day, we have a heart and we have, you know, human affection. But if they're not working out for you and they're not helping you lead your company in the right direction, it is time to move on.
I have an idea. So when we have to have that uncomfortable conversation with somebody, I think some of the progressive discipline, it's a required reading. What do you think?
I like that. That's a great idea. So it's basically like homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, because write-ups nowadays, people don't really take them seriously anymore.
Correct.
The days of write-ups are pretty much, I think they're becoming dead. I mean, you got to follow because of HR processes. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I think having those hard conversations and being real with the people is going to have a lot more value than sitting down with them and being like, okay, you're written up. Okay, but what did I do wrong? Okay, you showed up 15, 30 minutes late. But why did that happen? What is the reason that showed up? Is there anything that I can do to facilitate you to show up here earlier or treat that patient better or not make that claim a mistake when you're running your insurance filings? Because is it lack of coaching? Is it lack of training? Because a lot of people are afraid to say like, hey, I really don't know crap about this. Because they're worried they're going to lose their job. But they don't realize that the more they ignore the fact that they don't know what they're doing, the worse it is for the overall health of the company and for themselves.
And the reverse on that is we've run into team members in the past that have just started and they spent, 4 weeks training. And then we put them out there by themselves, and they're like, well, nobody showed me how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of being toxic, too. Is not holding yourself accountable, is not, creating a situation where you're going to benefit from the training and you're going to take that training and implement it.
Exactly. Yeah, no one wants to admit faults. Like, it's very hard to assume responsibility. That's why that book, Extreme Ownership, is such a good book, because he teaches you that you are the one that is accountable for your own future, your past, your present, and your future. The past already happened, but living in the present, you can make those changes, right, to hold yourself to accountability.
Why do we always blame somebody else? Why do we do that?
I would have to say that is more of low self-confidence. and the fact of you feeling bad about yourself, and you're intentionally like trying to make your reality seem like you didn't do a bad job. So you really are believing your bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, like I made a mistake, but it wasn't my fault. It was Jeremy's fault. And we see it all the time. And if not, what they do is they revert it, and they're like, oh, the reason I did that is because, you know, Jenny over there looked at me the wrong way, and that put me in a bad mood. And then I made the mistake. No, you made the mistake because you were not paying attention to what you were doing.
Correct.
You were not paying attention.
Correct.
So stop making excuses. That's like me doing a procedure, and then I start blaming an assistant 3 rooms down because she was talking to a patient that's why I messed up the tooth next to it, or something stupid like that.
Yes, sir.
Right?
That's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth. Everybody runs into that.
But in regards to toxicity, it's very common in the workplaces now. I mean, we've allowed employees to get away with murder. Let's just say it that way. Where back in the day, there was a lot of fundamentals and discipline and resilience in the employees that is no longer fully there anymore. There are amazing employees that will go that extra mile for you. Don't get me wrong.
I think COVID was the situation that took place.
Yes. That was a huge shift. But this has been going on, Jeremy, and it's funny you say COVID, but this has been going on. I thought it was COVID, but this has been going on for 10 years. I've been I had a call the other day with a sleep apnea company, and the owner of the sleep apnea company, or one of the co-founders of the sleep apnea company, said that he had a DSO, 7A practices, kind of like us. And he's like, I'm so glad I got out of the dental space because I was having human capital issues back then. I can only imagine what you're going through right now.
I mean, it's way worse than it was 5 years ago. There's no doubt about it. It's way worse than it was 7 years ago. But, I mean, I feel like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9, 10, I mean, people still genuinely cared. And, that's why people get in the healthcare industry is, because you want to take care of people. Well, supposedly.
Correct.
But now it's not that, right? Now it's like, I'm just coming to collect a paycheck.
Yep. Exactly.
The lazy, the angry people.
Yeah, and it goes back to the first thing I said today was like, if you change your environment by changing yourself, everything else can come piece by piece together. But you need to put a lot of emphasis in working on yourself and working on your environment. And you gotta work with these employees and how you communicate with them. A lot of our leaders or managers don't know how to have these hard conversations with the employees, and something that could have been very easily resolved becomes a huge issue. There's no diplomacy, and a lot of times there's a lot of belittling in the conversations, and they don't do it intentionally, but they make the person feel a lot lower than them.
I tell you what, getting involved in leadership training and mentoring and stuff like that, if you guys would just ask your leaders, your managers in your organization to, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, that's got to be a mandatory read. We get our team through that. And those conversations, a team member that we talk about all the time who's really took that serious.
Yep, and you can see the immediate changes. Changes. So it's a combination of personal changes, professional changes, and then you'll start seeing it all come together. And the problems that were very small become smaller, and the ones that were big become small. So it's very important that you put a lot of effort into how you train your team and how you have those conversations. If something bothers you, whether you're a lead dental assistant, the owner of a company, whatever business industry you're in, and somebody's doing something that annoys you or bothers you, immediately handle that problem before it arises.
Yeah, handle that problem in a professional conversation.
Yeah.
You can't go in there attacking these individuals because all you're doing is adding to the toxicity of the organization.
Yeah, you cannot lead by fear. That's for sure.
No, leading by fear is that's a myth. I want everybody to understand that that's a myth. Like you can do that, and 10% of your workforce will respect you. The other 90% will be looking for a new job.
That's right.
So anyway.
So yeah, it's very common, like what we were saying, but we have those challenges day in and day out, and culture is just a topic that we can talk for hours about. because the impact of a culture, a bad culture, can ruin your company.
Yes.
It can absolutely ruin your company.
Yes.
And all it takes is a couple bad seeds and the leaders not having those conversations when they do arise. It's very important. And you got to always do a reflection of yourself and how you're leading the team. And it doesn't matter how many trainings you do that are positive. If you have an employee that is disobeying your procedures and your protocols, you got to have those conversations.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jeremy. Well, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Follow us at Dr. Alex Plains, live stream with Dr. Alex Plains. Thank you.